Hi everybody. I just finished having my dinner and I got a little glass of wine. I'm not tipsy yet. But there's my other cat Mittens. Of course, sadly my other cat Jinx passed away just over a month ago. I don't know if you can see her. Her picture is behind Mittens. But like I've said, Mittens sometimes, once in a while, will sit where Jinx would usually sit. And so I thought I would do a video on the spur of her being there. Watch her leave now. So, not even prepared, as my knees crack. One thing I found that I'm going to show you actually just talk about the recent CDs that I've got and my thoughts on them. But before I did, I wanted to read this newspaper clip that I guess appeared in some newspaper. And I've seen it before, but then it popped up in my feed again. So this was Saturday, Sunday, probably a couple of days after the Beatles appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show. And it's written by Paul Jones. So there he is there. And so I thought you, sorry, I thought you Beatles fans would get a kick out of this. Now these are bifocal, but I don't know, when I'm reading up close, I just take them off and I can read it easily. Sullivan wasted time with Beatles. And this is a real article from 1964. If Ed Sullivan can find no better use for the time allowed him on Sunday night, take two. If Ed Sullivan can find no better use for the time on Sunday night than to devote it to such exhibitions as he presented last Sunday night, I suggest that CBS TV find something else to put in this hour of prime time. Why Sullivan found it necessary to aid in the phony promotion of four rock and roll exponents, all of whom resemble Moe of the Three Stooges. Never thought of that. Is beyond comprehension, and why he felt it necessary to load the theater with screaming teenage girls when he normally restricts his audience to grown-ups is also a mystery. It is obvious to those who saw the Beatles, four young fellows from Great Britain, that they have not attained their present notoriety on the basis of their musical talents. For the sounds emanating from their mouths were anything but melodic. Shorn of their mop-like hairdos, they would look and sound like many other inferior rock and roll groups which are still attempting to keep alive the fad which died when Elvis Presley entered the armed forces. So I guess rock and roll was just a fad. There is nothing attractive about the looks or the sounds of the Beatles. There is no reason why Sullivan should take part in the absurd campaign to make this group appear to be important. I have noticed the show go downhill in the type of entertainment presented in at least 3 of the last 4 shows. In catering to the screaming teenagers who find this group exciting, Sullivan has shown his contempt for the vast millions who used to find his program diverting. Tuesday, February 11th, 1964. Well, there were, I think, something like 74 million people watching the Ed Sullivan Show on that day, including me. I was a 6-year-old boy, and it's one of my first memories. And, obviously he, that's the thing too, him talking about their mop-top hairs. And when you look back, especially on that Ed Sullivan Show, they had pretty short hair. It wasn't like bit long. But, you know, those were the days. Whatever happened to the Beatles? Yeah, so I just wanted to end this with some CDs I've been listening to lately that I've purchased lately. Jethro Tull Aqualung. I've never had this. You know, it's one of the great albums from the 70s, and I do love Jethro Tull, but it's the one album I never owned. And I never listened to it all the way through until, of course, buying it recently, and it's great. So I've really been enjoying the remix by Steven Wilson. Now, Nectar is a prog rock band. I've got Remember the Future and Recycled, which are excellent, and I definitely want to get their first album, Journey to the Center of the Eye. I've heard it on Spotify, and it's awesome. And, you know, one or two more of their prog albums. And then this one I just recently got. It came after Remember the Future and before Recycled. It's called Down to Earth. And I've only listened to it once, but I wasn't as impressed with it. It's a bit more commercial than Remember the Future. It's shorter songs, and who knows, maybe I will get to love this as much, but you know, it's not like I disliked it, but I thought it was just good. And as some of you know, I'm a huge Paul Weller fan now. I've still got more CDs coming in, and so far I've got On Sunset, which I love, 10 out of 10. Sonic Kicks, my most recent one, 10 out of 10. Stanley Road, 10 out of 10. Fat Pop, 10 out of 10. This one I have not played enough. I've only played part of it, so I can't even rate it. But what I have heard, I really love his vocals on it. An orchestrated songbook. My favorite is Wake Up the Nation, which I've played many times. And also two other new ones, which I think are great, but I need to listen to them more. So I won't even rate them yet. But 22 Dreams, a double album, and Wild Wood, his second album. So there's still a lot more of his solo albums to get, including his debut. And then, of course, I want to get into the Jam. I have heard some of the Jam, and I've loved what I've heard. And the Style Council. But, yeah, really big Paul Weller fan now. And that is it. There. Yeah, it's nice to have a cat laying behind me when I'm doing a video. You got to do this more often.